Welcome to the MWA podcast. I'm Kyle, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Sean, Brian, and Jeff. Today, we're excited to welcome Mary May as our guest. Mary is an outstanding woodcarver and instructor working and teaching out of her new waterfront studio in Missouri. And she has been featured in numerous magazine articles and TV shows and has a wonderful book titled Carving the Acanthus Leaf, published by Lost Art Press. So welcome to the show, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's great. Before the show, we were talking. I was like, I hadn't seen you since Woodworking in America, but then you told me you were at Handworks last time. So I must have missed you there, but hopefully we can catch up at the next Handworks coming up, in September, end of August.
Yes, September. I
Yep.
think it's Labor Day.
Yep, Labor Day weekends. Well, before we get talking with Mary and all the fun stuff she has for us, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
Sutherland Wells knows that exceptional craftsmanship deserves an exceptional finish. That's why they handcraft their full line of low and VOC exempt finishes and stains using the highest quality, cold-pressed, sustainably grown tung oil. Their unique polymerization process delivers the deep penetrating, grain-enhancing, non-yellowing protection of tung oil, while reducing the drying time and allowing the finish to build a beautiful, durable film. Sutherland Wells, the timeless look of traditional oil made for the modern woodworker, and use code MWA25, that's the numbers 25, for 10% off your first order.
And we'd like to thank Sutherland Wells for their sponsorship of this episode. And with that, let's give our patrons a shout out. So who do we have to thank this week?
All right, a big thanks as always to our Patreon supporters. This time around, we're giving a big shout out to the official Anthony Moraes, Chef Moraes, great friend of the show and really great guy to talk to. If you would like to listen, if you would like to support the MWA podcast, you can go to patreon.com/MWA podcast and pick your level of support, and we would very much appreciate. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anthony. And with that, let's move on to what's in the shop. So, Sean, what are you working on?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Perfect. All right. I don't know what that was. As we're recording this is the first day, probably second day over freezing as of late. And it got up to well into the 60s today. So the snow is melted, all but what's in the very, very shaded spots, which is kind of wild to see because just 2 days later, white everywhere. So very quick thaw has occurred, as probably a lot of experiencing in the Northeast. But in the This Old House saga, drywall is scheduled to be delivered on Saturday. Talking and setting expectations for such acts is currently on the books because the old boy thinks we'll be done drywalling upstairs by Saturday night. And I'm like, we have to insulate first.
Yes.
We haven't insulated the ceiling yet.
I was about to ask you that.
We got to put a vapor barrier up because we haven't done that yet. We got to make sure all surfaces are ready for drywall because we haven't done that yet. Like, there's a lot of little needly things that have to happen, but he made the big purchase, so it's a big old load from Home Depot coming over between insulation and baffles for the rafters and the drywall tape, screws, all that jazz. So it's like a rounding point of the project. So it's going to be good to kind of cover some walls as opposed to just running wires through them.
Mm-hmm.
Fun times ahead. I was out of town
Nice.
last week, so nothing got done. I was in Jacksonville for work, but my dad has been continuing the electrical work, and he actually mentioned that he's probably ready to set the new panel as early as next week, but he's toned out all the lines on the upstairs section so we can safely cover them, knowing that the wiring is good.
Okay. So when do you think you're going to get your certificate of habitability or something like that?
Don't know. Don't know. He has a date set for the third week in March, but I'm not sure that's actually going to happen. This is my son I'm speaking of, and he starts a turnaround job at a nuclear facility that's going to be having him on 712s for weeks on end without a break, and probably 3 months total through the whole thing. So he's going to be largely out of pocket,
Mm-hmm.
but he wants to stay there. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. I mean, really, we're talking, we've got like 5 weeks as it sits right now, give or take.
Yeah.
And so it'll be close. It might not be painted the best, but he did. I mean, he ordered flooring. That's part of the thing coming on Saturday is also some laminate flooring. So there's a whole lot of closer to finish happening, but he understands that we don't want to put the floor down until we paint the walls kind of thing. Like, there's a whole, when you have the opportunity to do this as a complete restore,
Right.
we're all bare surfaces, so you got to do it in order. or things get a little messier than they have to be. So it's coming. We have most of, we've got new fans and light fixtures and everything that are ready to go. We're just not hanging them until obviously we get the power hooked up and the drywall on, but it's progressing nicely, I shall say. In the last couple of weeks, it's kind of really made some headway.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, you sound tired, so that's good.
Well, thanks. It's more on my mind than what I've been doing. Just yesterday, I went there after work and I hung some joist hangers where there was no support before. I love seeing 90-degree rafters just toenailed, holding up a second floor. I love it. It's just absolutely beautiful.
Nice.
So I looked at it and was like, they literally built this like it was a cottage, like a deck on a cottage. They wrapped a sill plate, what is legitimately around the old exterior on the, like, I can see this in the downstairs, and like where there's like a pocket where I would love to like support a beam across it properly to land on studs, but to do so, I would literally have to cut out the corner support of the house, and I'm not doing it.
No.
I'm going to trust steel to support that venture more so than interrupting something that's been standing for 115 plus years.
Yeah.
Like, I looked at that real close. I went, nope, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. There are other ways, but yeah, fun. I still have to do that. I have one kind of major structural fix to do to a floor that's toenailed, which whatever. We'll get through that. Got to buy a couple new Sawzall blades to get through some nails.
Nice.
Brian, how about you, man?
Not a whole lot. I've been on the road a bit. I was actually down in Jeff Wyatt's neck of the woods recently in Nashville.
We both visited on either side of that storm. That's
wild. It was
nobody visits me.
Oh.
Sorry, buddy. But the more you travel out of Pennsylvania, the more you realize that the food in Pennsylvania is terrible. So it's good to get out once in a while. So that we've got a lot of sports stuff going on. I actually found out today I have to go to England for like 9 days.
Whoa!
At the end of March
for field hockey.
Traveling with the junior national team.
That's
do
awesome.
Some video work for him. So that's gonna be cool. I've never been to Europe, so
wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I've been to Canada, and that's it.
Big step then. Wow.
It's just like Europe.
Yeah, you know you need a passport for this, don't you?
It just came in the mail. Got renewed. I'm good.
Okay.
I don't have global entry though.
Okay.
You need those power adapters.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's also
because we weren't sure if we're going to go to the Netherlands or England. We found out today it's going to be England.
Okay.
The
Wow.
area.
That's exciting.
So very excited. Maybe I'll stop by the Windsor Workshop guy. Let's see what else. Oh, I actually broke down and did some sharpening. If you know me very well, I'm habitually lazy for certain things, and sharpening is one of them. I'm sure that's a common issue with a lot of folks. But
I'm sure Mary is going to correct you here in a few minutes.
Look, this is a confession all of a sudden. Yeah, I was just applying some maple edge banding to some shelves.
Yeah.
And I was just, I don't have any fancy edge tools. So I just, I use a block plane skew it and just, get it flush. And I'm like, boy, this is really kind of just like not going as fast as I thought it would. And then I said to myself, like, when is the last time I actually broke down and had a sharpening session? I can't even tell you. I mean, I may sharpen a block plane here and there, but I haven't broke down and sharpened multiple things in probably years. So I bit the bullet and did that, got all the hand planes that I do use often, which isn't a lot, and some chisels, and just had it at it, brought out the stones, made my swarf, one of my favorite words. And now I feel better. Although I mean, anybody who's been woodworking for a while knows that dull tools are miserable to use. They're dangerous to use. So this is something I need to, maybe that could be my New Year's resolution, or I guess Lent thing, is to not use dull tools. So that's going to be the New Year, New Me thing, is to actually use some sharp tools.
Nice.
Okay. We can put that on a t-shirt, I think.
Yeah. So we can sell it. So we can sell it at Handworks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Jeff, how about you?
Not much, not too much going on. We're on day 3 of 6 in our fanback arm rocker class, so it's going really well. Things are progressing well. Matter of fact, Tuesday we were carving the combs, and I did a plug for Miss Mary May. So I always typically carve the volutes just like you normally would, the way Curtis has them laid out in the plans and stuff. I had one gentleman ask if there's any other different ways. I was like, well, there is. I have Mary. I have several of her videos on that. I think it's the Gumroad, something like that app. So I have that on there. The carving scrolls. So I kind of showed showed the guys in class that. It was pretty cool. So they asked if I ever tried it. I was like, well, I haven't, but video looks really cool. I have watched the video, and someday I do want to try carving the scrolls and putting that on a chair. So I just haven't done it though. But it does look like it'd be really cool to do.
Well, what material is that arm bow out of? White oak or something like that? I
White
assume?
oak, yeah, it's all white oak. Yeah,
Okay.
white oak. The combs out of white oak, the back spindles are white oak, sugar maple, and then I have some seats out of the eastern white pine, and then a couple mahogany seats.
Oh, nice.
And then the arms are all mahogany, so that
Mhm.
carves up pretty nice.
Mhm.
And so that's about it for me. Getting on class, and I'm hoping that on Saturday, the 6th day, we'll be able to do maybe some milk paint stuff. So
Mhm.
I think we will. So how about you, Kyle?
Well, more adventures in 3D printing, basically, since I got my 3D printer. So I think last or a couple of shows ago, I mentioned that I was going to be making these little plates for my angle gauge that's part of my seat drilling guide. So, and then I wanted to play around with, making the whole thing, 3D printing the whole gauge. Well, I did that. Had one that didn't turn out very well. It was functional, but didn't turn out very well. And I had another one that turned out okay, but it just didn't have the weight, the heft
Yeah.
that I like, and
Sure.
stuff like that. Because my the one I use now is maple, but it just has that sticker on it. So I think I'm just going to go with the little plates, and so I've dialed those in. Made my first prototype, worked like a charm. So as we're recording this, I got my first mass print of these things where I'm making 7 of them.
Oh,
That's
nice.
as much as they'll fit on the build plate. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I've been doing that. The other thing, I'm actually going to be making a chair. So hey, believe it or not.
Hey,
There we go.
Hey. So, over the years, I've had to demo all my jigs and stuff. So I have all these seat blanks just around, and I have all these other pieces around. So I need to make 5 bloom backs, and then I got one I haven't drilled the spindle holes for. So I think I'm going to make a fan back out of these. These are all the Peak Albert plans.
Yeah.
And so I ripped out some wood to steam bend some balloon back. So as soon as I get done with this, I'm going to get onto that. I'm going to try to film as much as this is possible because I have some videos on my site where I've demonstrated some of my jigs. They're getting pretty dated at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm probably just going to use this to do this, and I'll just build a chair using my jigs and just put it out there. That's my plan anyway.
I'd tell you that balloon back, that is a pretty chair, especially what I really like is when I see it with the ball and cylinder turning or the blunt
Yep.
arrow foot.
Yep.
I really like it with that. It's a sharp looking chair.
Yeah, it is. It's one of my favorite looks, and and then of course I'm doing this. Maybe I shouldn't publish this yet, but I'm doing this out of kiln dried red oak, which I've done before. I just soak it for a week and then
Yeah.
steam it twice as long, and I've had some good results using that.
deal.
And I use one of those winch type things to bend it where everything
With a strap?
with the
You do a
strap. Yeah,
With the
Yeah.
strap, okay.
yeah. So I've had good luck. I've bent several before, and usually about 2/3 of the ones I do make it. So, which is not bad for kiln dried wood. So we'll
Nice.
see if I can improve my batting average. But with that, Mary, what are you working on in your shop?
Some pretty exciting stuff, actually. I have a commission going on right now that is a fireplace mantle. And if you're familiar with the Grinling Gibbons style fireplace, Grinling Gibbons, 17th century English carver that basically carves like 3 and 4 inch deep carvings. Anyway, yeah, it's pretty extreme. And I wanted to talk to you about maybe 3D printing it once I'm done.
I'm a complete novice,
I do have a copy of it.
But sure, I'll give it a shot.
But yeah, it's the whole head of the mantle, and then they want overmantle pieces, 2 overmantle pieces,
Yeah.
and then coming down the legs, and it is absolutely massive. I've been working on it a year now,
Oh, wow.
and
A
it's
year?
pretty intense. But it is pushing me past my comfort zone, which is really exciting. After you've been carving for a while, you're just all like, you get a little settled in your ways, and you're like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't have a clue.
I hope no humbling mishaps along the way. Any repairs
All
needed?
over the place.
Okay, all right.
All over the
Yeah.
place.
Those are
But
healthy.
I'm
Does it
actually
design opportunities?
Yes.
exactly. I have a lot of those. But it's really exciting because it's kind of an evolution. You draw a design, you have an idea of where you're going with it, and the client approves it. But changing from 2-dimension to 3-inch thick carving is a different world.
That is a lot.
And fortunately,
Wow.
they're very flexible, and that where they basically are letting me sort of let it grow and change and evolve.
Well, now
But
what
now
are
it's
the
been
details of the carving? Is it
it's a basically, okay, there's a center basket. I've got a lot of it on my Instagram and
Oh, okay.
Facebook, and I'm starting to post things
Oh,
on
I've
my
probably
YouTube
seen it
more.
then. Yeah.
That
Okay.
is basically it's a central basket with flowers, leaves. It's very what is the word? Harvest like, basically,
Okay.
Okay.
where the vine comes out and then basically flows down the whole entire mantle face. And then the overmantles are going to be also a smaller basket, and then just this amazing just mix of leaves and flowers, and just really, it's very exciting. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sitting there looking at it. Yeah. It looks, yeah, that is amazing.
So
Yeah. I
the
can see
like
how deep that is.
the
Yeah.
excavating
Because I've seen some
under the
carving.
arching things is
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. I was just
Yeah.
wondering what it looked like because I've seen some real deep carvings with, all kinds of like landscape scenes or cityscape
Yeah.
scenes and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So
But this is
that is
layered where
beautiful.
there's
Yeah.
so yeah, there's 2, sometimes 3 layers of
Wow.
pieces. So it really is like a jigsaw puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And it as I said, it's pushing me past that comfort zone, which is really exciting just to kind of see where it's going to go.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is
that is
very, very
super
cool.
cool. Yeah. Well, before we talk more about that, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and how you got into wood carving.
Well, I am actually a Midwest girl. I grew up and was born in the Chicago area and
Okay.
lived there till I was about 11. And then my parents decided that they needed to bring all of the kids to not they didn't want us to grow up in the city. They wanted us to be, I don't know, they felt a little safer in the country. So we ended up moving to Wisconsin, small town Wisconsin, Sparta, Wisconsin. And I think I probably got in more trouble there than I would have in the city. But it was a lot of fun. But yeah, you never know those small
Yeah.
towns. But yeah, grew up and went to high school there, and ended up then moving to Minneapolis. And that is also when I kind of was interested in carving. I really didn't know why. It was just this
Yeah.
thing that I was interested in.
Did anyone in your family or anything like that do woodworking or?
Well, my dad was more of a carpenter, and I do
Mhm.
remember spending a lot of time in the garage with him, and he showed me how to use the hand drill and everything, with the hand crank. And
Yeah.
I
Didn't he
made my
build a couple of boats, I read?
Yes, yep, he
Yes.
built a couple boats, built
Nice.
houses, and we actually lived on boats for several years of our growing up, and went down to the Bahamas, and that's a whole story in itself. Down the Mississippi River, and so 5 children,
On a boat down the Mississippi River and then over to the Bahamas?
Mississippi River, and went to
Okay,
the
okay.
Bahamas. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that'll
Yeah,
be another
I think if
podcast.
you woulda stayed in Chicago, that might have been a little safer.
Yes. Yeah, so, yeah, but he was, definitely a builder, and so I just had whatever opportunity
Mhm.
I was out there with him. I made my first dollhouse when I was, I think, 11, and, I sold it at a garage sale for $8.
Oh,
That was really
I was just about to ask you if
Oh
you still
man.
had it.
no.
No, that
Uh
got you into say, "Hey, I can make money doing this."
Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah.
That opened up the eyes. So, yeah, but I guess, my really first interest in carving ended up really when I had an opportunity to go to Europe to study over there, and I had one of those, I don't know what it's called now, but Eurail passes
Mhm.
where you basically travel for 30 days, hop on, hop off
Yeah.
train, and stay at youth hostels and everything. So I spent 30 days traveling around Europe doing that, and absolutely falling in love with the cathedrals and the castles and just the detail carvings. And really kind of thinking that maybe I was born about 300 or 400 years too late, because that was just something, everything that I saw was old. Everything I
Hmm.
saw was way, way, way back. And so I thought, well, nah, nobody ever does that. Nobody works on that anymore. And I didn't really think much of it as a career at that. But when I went back to Minneapolis, I thought, well, I'd really like to learn how to carve, whether it's just whittling or doing something. I just wanted to learn how to work with wood. And I ended up basically going to a garage sale and going to an old work site where I realized now the wood that I picked was hickory, not the best beginner carving wood. So I grabbed this board, and I had went to a garage sale, and I found a chisel and a big rubber mallet, and I basically just started hacking away at this thing, and I carved a face, and I still have that carving.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I still have it, and it's this very crude face. It took me 3 days to carve this, but I was absolutely fascinated with it, and I love the whole process. I just knew that I desperately needed a teacher because I wasn't going anywhere with that. And that's when I ended up going in the Yellow Pages, and it's Google now, but
Yeah.
Yellow Pages back then. Um, looked under wood carving and found Artistic Wood Carving Studio, and that was the studio of Konstantinos Papadakis. Konstantinos Papadakis
Padakis.
was a Greek master carver,
Hmm.
and he had basically quit school when he was like 12 years old, and that was what he was going to do forever. Now, when I met him, he was in his 50s, and so he just took on students, like one night a week, 2 nights a week. And I knew as soon as I got in that shop, I mean, it was one of those really, really messy shops,
Right.
dusty tools all over the place, carvings all over the place, stuck on the walls, benches were filled with carvings. And I was like, and so I knew at that point that was what I wanted to do forever. I
Mm.
didn't know it was even possible, but I thought, wow, if there's any way I can do this, I'm going to do it. And I studied with him then for 3 years and kind of apprenticed, studied really. I mean, as much as apprentices are right now, this is a
Mm.
little difficult because I actually had a job too. But it turned out so I was there for 3 years, and it turned out that the longer I was on my day job, which was actually a desktop publisher at the time, that was back when it was called desktop publishing,
Okay.
or basically the first generation computer graphics.
Hmm.
And so I was a desktop publisher at a technical college there. And the longer I carved, the more I just dreamt about what I was going to carve when I got off work. And it was just, well, the more and more I was
Yeah.
absolutely obsessed with this. And my whole brain was just constantly thinking about what I was going to carve. Anyway, I was fortunate enough to get laid off from my job.
Oh no. Oh no.
And I walked
Interesting.
away with some severance pay,
Hmm.
and I ended up taking that and going straight over to England at the City and Guilds College, studied there for 3 months because I only had a certain amount of money and a certain amount of time to get over there. The City and Guilds College is one of the only ones that actually still teaches the classical carving, that
Mm.
European style, using the long handle
Right.
gouges, that very traditional style of
Yeah.
carving.
Brian, you
And so I
taking
studied.
notes?
I am.
Sorry?
I said I asked him, Brian, is he taking notes since he's going to be over in England?
With
Yeah, there
Take
you
some
go.
carving lessons while I'm there. Yeah.
I don't know if they might actually do like a weekend or week-long carving classes. I really don't know. But they also do the 4 year. So if you don't stay there for 4 years, you can study carving for 4 years.
They might have a weekend sharpening class.
There you go.
I can't tell you how.
So you're in England and you do this program for, you said what, 3 months?
Yeah, I was there for 3 months, and then
Yeah.
I actually ended up getting a job over there,
Hmm.
working at a wood carving shop wood carving and stone carving shop in Cambridge. And that, I mean, the sort of the evolution of this was interesting. I actually then ended up getting a job going to Malaysia working as a stone carver.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to do that for 6 months. I was a stone carver in Malaysia. The
Now,
transition from wood carving to stone carving is actually kind of smooth. Believe it or
okay.
not, it's actually harder to go from stone carving to wood carving because if you think about it, I know it sounds really like this physically hard material, but it's actually easier to carve stone because there's no grain.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, there's no grain to it.
And
Yeah.
so people who switch from I go from stone carving to wood carving really get frustrated because they're like
Mhm.
this limitation of what direction they can and can't go.
Now, do you still do any stone carving?
Uh, there's not a lot of call for it.
Yeah.
The largest piece I ever did was about 8 foot tall limestone dolphins, 2 dolphins jumping out of a bunch of waves.
Oh,
Okay.
And I spent about a year with grinders and saws and
Yeah.
pneumatic chisels. And I don't know if I want to do that to my body.
I've always
Yeah,
been,
I see those now, and they're all just cast pieces at this point.
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
very
And it was
intrigued by those
limestone.
large scale stone carvings like that. Like, even back in Da Vinci's time, it must have taken forever to get it right.
Oh, yeah. But you know what? They probably had about 50 little apprentices chipping
Yeah,
away at all the
probably.
pieces, too.
Yep.
So it was only me.
Well, fantastic. Well, so with all your studies and stuff that you've done in museums and historical sites and so forth, is there one piece that really fundamentally changed how you thought about wood carving?
I would have to say, I don't know necessarily a piece, but
Mm.
I mentioned Grinling Gibbons.
Mhm.
And if you have an opportunity to study this, I think they've got some BBC programs out there on his work. But basically, he's a 17th century carver that, and if you're going to England, you need to make note of this. I'll give you a list of all the places to go see. But this is the fireplace mantle that I'm making is that kind of style, I guess. Very deep,
Mhm.
very sculptural pieces. Anyway, so if you go to Windsor Castle, Hampton Court, St. Paul's Cathedral, those are the three main ones. Then there's all sorts of houses around and churches around London and outside of London that he has done carving, but it's absolutely incredible. If you just Google Grinling Gibbons,
Mhm.
you'll find that. So I think that was probably the most inspirational. I ended up taking a tour of 14 people to England right after COVID, which was really a great time to go to England because there were no tourists
Mhm.
at all. Had to jump through a lot of hoops with
Right.
the whole testing and everything, and there were some things that were still closed. But I mean, it was great. It was really, and I think everybody in the tour was just so flexible because they were so eager to get out and like do this.
Yeah.
And, so that was an amazing trip, and that, I think, was probably one of the most inspiring trips I've ever taken just because it was all-consuming of this one particular artist, and now it wasn't him, obviously. I mean, there was so much carving that he did. He was mainly the designer. I think he did, obviously, when he first started, he was doing a lot of carving, but he ended up really having, I think they estimated, hard to tell from 300 years ago, but they estimated he had 50 workers carving all the
Wow.
details, but it
Mhm.
was all in his name and his design and that type of.
Nice, nice. Well, now have you studied other regional stuff? Is there a particular region of carving, that's or should I say, is there a particular carving types of carving that are dedicated to one region, say Italian versus England versus Northern Europe or anything like that?
Uh, well, I guess when you think about my teacher was Greek. Okay,
Mhm.
so my first teacher was Greek. So if you think about like the Greek Orthodox churches
Right.
or the Russian Orthodox churches, if you've ever been inside one of those, a lot of the times the whole interior of these churches are carved. And so it's
Mhm.
called the Byzantine style carving. It's very geometric, a lot of just very stylized
Mhm.
leaves. And so that was really what I focused on when I was first learning. But I have to say, when I wrote the Carving the Acanthus Leaf book, I just went everywhere with it. I mean, that particular leaf,
Mhm.
even before I mean, I knew that there were a lot of different leaves and a lot of different styles,
Right.
Italian, French, English,
Mhm.
all of this. But when you write a book on something, you discover way more than you ever imagined. I could probably write an entire additional book
But
and not run out of designs and not run out of topics of different styles. So that in itself was really interesting, just seeing all the different styles. And I guess that's probably was pretty inspiring for me, I guess.
Mhm. Well, now this commission piece, this, relief carving you're doing for this fireplace, the mantle, and I assume the surround and all that kinda stuff.
Mhm.
Now are you actually making the actual mantle, or are you just making the carvings attached to a piece?
That's a good question. We're in the process right now of figuring that out. It's possible that my husband is going to be building the mantle, so we're
Oh,
working on.
nice.
Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
we're it's in a different city. I have to be a little careful. I don't want to,
Yeah, that's right.
it's a private client. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that would actually be really neat because basically the fireplace mantle would be here and I could attach everything here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be painted, which is it basically matches to match the existing interior
Right.
of the house. So I kind of wish it was going to be just stained, but that is what it is.
Yeah. Now are you responsible for that piece of it too, or are you just?
I'm going to probably be finding somebody who's an artist, a painter
Yeah.
who's going to customize that because there's so many fine details that if
Yeah.
you end up getting too thick paint,
You're
Right.
gonna
it's
lose
just going to lose the details.
Yeah. Now
So
are they painting the details separate? I mean, it's not going to be all one color, is it, or is it going to be like
it
separate?
is. It's going to
Okay.
match the interior
Okay.
of the house, but I think we're going to do a lot of sample pieces. But I think
Mm.
what we're probably going to do is do a little bit of an antiquing or a glazing, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
so that the deeper areas of the carving are going to stand out a little different, with a little bit more depth. If
Yeah.
it's just white, then I think it's going to end up losing a lot of the depth.
Yeah.
So, but we're going to do some samples, a lot of samples
Yeah.
before we actually make a decision on that.
Nice. Now, do you ever do any? I assume you probably do any gold leaf, silver leaf, that type of stuff.
You know what? I don't, but
Okay.
I've got friends who
Do
do. If I ever need that done, yeah,
okay. All right.
it's that's a whole different world.
Yes. 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 I was just wondering. Just wondering. Now, you mentioned your husband might build the mantle. Is he a woodworker?
He is,
Yeah.
yep, and he's a woodworker, furniture maker, house builder. In fact, just recently, in fact, the last week, he's actually raised. We have a little A-frame on Lake of the Ozarks here, and
Yeah.
he actually raised the whole house up 16 inches.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
ambitious.
That
Yeah, I just have to walk away because I don't wanna
okay.
no, I don't yeah,
Yeah.
the thought of him being underneath this house that he's basically jacking up the corners and,
Yeah.
an inch at a time and then putting a block under, inch more block, and I have to that's when the wife has to step away and say, "You know what? I think I'm just gonna let you do your thing, and I'll do
Yeah.
mine."
That's why
But I
women
just
women live
talked to him this
longer.
evening, and he said, "Finally, I got it all the way to the top. It's done." So I'm like, "Phew." Yeah. Can see this thing sort of teetering,
Yeah.
but,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, one question I have for you is, out of all the carving projects you've done, which one are you most proud of?
Oh my.
Now, it can be more than one, I guess.
Well, you know what? There's a kind of my claim to fame, which not a lot of people know about, but it's kind of a famous piece. And when you go to England, you have to go to
Mm.
the Shakespeare's Globe Theatre and the stage capitals. There's two big columns, and the two stage capitals. I helped carve those.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, when I was
Nice.
studying over there, that was part of the job that I had was carving, and they're big Corinthian capitals, and they're actually gold, painted gold leaf. Um, and so if you go there and see that, that's my kind of my claim to fame when I was over there.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Nice.
Well, let's talk a little bit about carving. When you're actually doing carving, so before you ever pick up a gouge or something like that, what's kind of the mental process you go through? I assume you got the design going and all of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of interesting. This just happened a couple weeks ago. So I was talking about this fireplace mantle. I've already done the face, the fireplace
Hmm.
header carving, and I have started on the overmantel design. And about 2 weeks ago, I was thinking about it, and then I was thinking about it a little bit more, and then I was going to sleep. I was thinking about it a little more, and I didn't sleep. And all night long, I carved that basket and flower and leaf design all night long. It
Goodness gracious.
basically, when I woke up the next day, it was already carved. It was already finished. I did every single cut, and I thought I hadn't done that for a long time.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell you're involved and heavily
Yeah.
involved emotionally and physically and everything in a project when you stay up all night long and mentally carve something.
Wow.
So
Yes.
that happens occasionally.
Yes. Yes. I think we've all been there. I've always had something going on in the shop that I'm trying to figure out how to do. And yeah, it just keeps you up and you
Yeah.
think about it. And then it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
Well, that is cool. Well, tell us a little bit. There's a couple of things I want to get into, but I think first off, before I get into those questions, is tell us a little bit about your school that you established there. Now, you had a school in South Carolina, right? And then y'all have recently, well, I don't know how recently, but it's been a year or two, right, that y'all moved to Lake of the Ozarks.
It's been a process over the last year to 2 years.
Yeah.
We've been slowly moving here.
Mm.
To Missouri. I actually didn't have a school there. I do a lot of teaching
Right.
outside. I do a lot of teaching in other schools, but I never really had a space in South Carolina where I had a physical school.
Okay.
And so it was really the school here in Missouri. I've always wanted to do an in-person school. I actually tried, I guess, about 15 years ago. I had a commercial space, and I thought, let's go ahead and do this. My work was kind of slow. Let's try it. And I advertised it a bit. Well, that was before really a lot of internet stuff happening, and I was just this carver out of Charleston. I didn't really didn't know anybody, and so I just sort of was able to get a few people interested, and it kind of fizzled before it even started. And so I didn't really pursue that much, but it's always been in the back of my head to say, you know what, I would love to have an in-person school. Now that I've done a lot of teaching elsewhere, and you learn a lot when you teach at different places, you learn about how schools are run, you learn about, the good things, the bad things, what not to do, what to do, what works. And so about 2 years ago, I acquired some benches. Okay, so
Yeah.
the benches have already arrived. Right? Then I ended up going to a grizzly tent sale in Springfield, Missouri, and got 4 more benches. I thought,
Yeah,
okay, I guess I'm
if
gonna
you
have
live
to
in
try.
Missouri and are a woodworker, I think you're obligated to go to those tent sales.
It was dangerous, but I got them for such a good deal that I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't pass this one up. So I actually have about 9 workbenches, but no school, right? So this is like, okay, this is going to happen. I just have to now find the space. And there was a lot of options. Oh, you can have, buy one of those Amish sheds, the big metal sheds,
Right.
and just make it into that, and going through all sorts of options. Anyway, where I have this right now, the school that I have it now, my sister has a restaurant right next door, and she owned the house or building next door to her restaurant. And she was sort of debating, well, maybe I'll put it into an Airbnb, and, because it's the lake area, it's really good
Right.
for that. And I said, how about if I make it worth your while if I rent it for just a school or a workshop or whatever? I'll rent it and make it worth your while, so you don't want to Airbnb it. So I ended up renting it. And then last summer, she basically said, I'm thinking about selling it. Do you want to buy it? Okay. So she gave me a deal I couldn't refuse. And now I own a workshop
Wow.
Nice.
Do you own the
right on the
restaurant
lake.
too?
Yeah.
It overlooks the lake.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I was about to say, our listeners, if you're interested in carving at all, this is a school you want to go to. If you're not interested in carving, look at where the school is, and you'll want to go take a
Ah,
class
there you
there
go.
because it is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, you're overlooking the lake, basically. You're on the waterfront.
Right on the water. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's absolutely a perfect spot. And,
Yeah.
it's thinking of some of the other ones I was considering. And I'm
Mhm.
so glad that I have this, because just the feel of the place, you open up the curtains and the lake is right there. And it really is perfect. And what it is, it's one large room that it was basically the living room. And then there's
Yeah.
a sort of a kitchen area. And right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 workbenches, and I could probably fit 6. So it's, the classes are relatively small. I think no more than 8 students.
Mhm.
So it's going to be nice in that way, just much more personalized. And the one thing that I've always wanted to do with the school is make it more possible to do long-term apprenticeships. I don't think there's anybody out there who's teaching carving in that way. I know that there's a lot of schools that are teaching furniture making that way, but if there's anybody who is wanting to really focus on an intensive carving course, 2-month or 3-month or longer, That's kind of what I'm trying to make it available for. So nobody's come up yet being interested in that. I mean, I only opened up last summer, but that's really because, wood carving and this style of wood carving is really a dying art.
Mhm.
And you got to pass it on somehow. I
Right. Yeah.
don't know how
Yeah.
else. So I'm hoping that somebody will respond to that
Yes.
and with the more of an intensity that what I have now are week long and like 3-day to 5-day courses.
Hmm.
And so I may just throw something out there and say, a month-long course and see if anybody signs up. I don't know.
Yeah, that's always one. So, dear listener, if you want to be the next Mary May, chance.
Oh,
Here's
you
your
don't want to be
chance.
me. Your brain hurts.
Yeah. Well, now with that school, you also, so if you can't make it out there or
Mhm.
you can't afford to take a month-long course, you also have online courses that you offer.
Yes, yeah, and
And
that actually that's been going on for now 14 years.
yeah.
And I started that basically it was one of those slow times in my
Mm,
life, and I knew I needed to make a living, and I still wanted to make a living
yeah.
carving. And that was like when the video schools were just starting. So
Right.
we were just, figuring it out as we
Right.
went. And
Pioneer,
so
so to speak. Yes.
yeah. And so a friend of mine was a retired IBM programmer.
Uh-huh.
And he actually helped me go behind the scenes and set up the original school. Now it's evolved a lot since then, and cameras improved and all of that.
Mhm.
And but yeah, I think I don't know how many 350 different videos
Mhm.
and 300 different projects and
Right.
probably multiple videos within those projects. But yeah, it's kind of amazing when you commit to doing a video every week or two. That adds up over 14 years. It's
Right, right.
amazing.
And what I'm impressed with is how reasonable most of those courses are. They're extremely approachable from anybody. I mean, and I think you have a subscription where you can subscribe on a monthly basis and get access to everything.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
now, so there's a 7-day free trial that people can
Mm,
sign up for, and they can pretty much have access to everything on the site for 7
mhm.
days, just to kind of see if it's something they're even interested in. Sometimes people might not be interested in the style of carving, but they get a test. And then, yeah, you can sign up monthly for $19 a month, and you pretty much have full access to every video,
Yeah,
unlimited access.
yeah.
And right now I'm kind of scheduling live streams every 2 weeks. So I'm continuing to add more content and
Mhm.
different projects, and I'll never run out of projects to do. But I add that, and then what do with the live streams is once the live stream is done, I add it as a permanent lesson. So if you miss the live stream, then you can watch it just as a member, and then you can also sign up as a yearly member for $199. And so yeah, I think it's pretty reasonable when you think about
Yeah.
sometimes the cost of classes can be pretty extremes.
Yeah, and I mean, even some of
Mostly,
if you just wanna buy a class, there is I
yeah,
was, going around your site, some of them are like $10, some of them are like $15, somewhere around in that
right.
neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't wanna actually do the membership thing, you
Mhm,
can sign and purchase courses and lessons individually. Like, I just talked to somebody recently, they're wanting to build a Newport shell,
mhm.
the, period furniture, and they don't
Yeah,
wanna sign
we
up for
were
the whole course, but
yeah,
they
we were
wanna
just
buy.
talking to Al Sharp about that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
How's he doing?
He's doing well. Yes,
Good.
yes,
yeah, I
yes.
actually bought that Newport shell, that course, the a la carte, and I got what I thought was really nice. I got the casting that you make for it too,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
I can see how it's supposed to look.
Yes.
So, those castings are really cool. Those are really cool castings. I like that.
Oh, good, thanks.
Yes, yes. That is some interesting stuff. So, if you're interested in carving as a newbie, so to speak, what are some of the essential tools that you need to start?
Oh, goodness. Well, for this type of carving that I show, first of all, the long handle gouges. Okay, so
Okay.
like we're talking maybe 8 to 9 inch long gouges. I try to avoid the little palm gouges or the carving knives, just because I always end up bleeding from those. The the whole thing about the long handle gouges, and if you see the technique that I use is basically they're held onto with both hands.
Hmm.
So a lot safer and a lot easier to control that way. So yeah, so the long handle gouges, and ideally, if you can get fishtail shaped. So the ones that splay out, and
Hmm.
that's more for just really, really sort of delicate carving. You can get into corners better. It makes the actual main part section of the metal a lot thinner, so you can do some twisting. And I know when I first started, I only had the straight ones. And once I started buying fishtails, those are the only ones I ever
Hmm.
picked and chose to
Is
use.
that because it gives you the option of using either edge or corner of the blade itself to get into tighter like angles? Obviously, a straight chisel just wants to go in that direction.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, so it's almost like it's a skew chisel.
Yeah,
When you can fit into those tight corners.
just bending
Yeah,
one way or the other, allowing it to get into there. Interesting.
yeah, exactly. And that's actually another one is a skew chisel, just a flat chisel that is a
Hmm.
skew is a really, really helpful one. And I'd say probably the other main one that you probably want to use if you're doing the style and technique that I use is a V chisel. And what I use the V chisel for is doing a lot of initial clearing away of wood. So, for instance, let's say you're going to carve a leaf into a flat board. If you just take whatever, the outline of that leaf and just stab cut that into just a flat board, there's going to be a lot of wood shifting and
Hmm.
pushing one side or the other. There's going to be some very fragile areas happening. So what I typically do is I take my V chisel and I outline the design, and then I make those stab cuts,
Yeah.
stop cuts along the edge. And then what it does is it gives towards the V, and it really protects the carving.
Yeah. I noticed that, well, on your, the letter carving that you do,
Hmm.
how you use your V chisel to kinda clear it out, because there's a lot of people that will just do, like, just the stab cuts first and then kinda angle it in,
Right.
and that, when you do the V cut, I tried your method, that method of doing it, and it works really well. It's a little bit more enjoyable, for sure.
Yeah, and it's something that my teacher taught me how to do. So I think you get comfortable with that. And the only problem is the V chisel is miserable to sharpen.
It's
Yeah, because you're wanting to come to a point right there at the bottom of that V, and I imagine that's very easy to round over.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, real quick, there's actually a tiny little radius at the corner, and that's what
Okay.
creates the issue. It's not a real sharp corner. It's
Okay.
actually a slight radius, and what happens
Hmm.
is you get this little irritating beak of metal sticking out, and
Oh,
that's
okay.
usually what
Okay.
happens. So what you have to do along the little outer corner, you actually have to sharpen the outer corner as if it is a little
A
tiny, tiny
tiny,
gouge.
tight radius. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
That's
I've
what
got a YouTube video on sharpening the V chisel too. That way,
Okay.
talk about that. But no, it's probably one of the most challenging because it's kind of like three chisels. You got two flat chisels, and then you got this little tiny, tiny
Yeah.
curve at the
Yes,
V
yes,
of it.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. Interesting. Well, so when you see beginners, what are some of the most common mistakes they make, and any advice on how to avoid those mistakes?
You know what? I think one of the things that I see a lot with beginners is they're afraid of making mistakes,
Hmm.
and so there's this tendency to sort of hold back and afraid to, oh no, I don't want to make that cut because if I mess up, then I've got to throw the whole thing away. No, you don't. You don't. There's very, very few times if you make a mistake or if something breaks that you have to throw that carving away. There are always redesign opportunities, and in the whole scheme of the whole whatever the whole carving is that you're doing, a tiny little issue like that is not going to be that noticeable. I think it's more relaxing and just having fun with it and not getting too locked in to precision. And I'm actually learning a lot from this carving that I'm doing is I am just going for it. I'm just like diving in and making these three-dimensional flowers and leaves and like, oh, that tip of that leaf just snapped right off. Okay, I guess now it's turning that way.
Becomes a feature.
I think that's probably one of the things I see the most though is the fear of making a mistake,
Hmm.
and you just have to dive in and
Yeah,
have fun with it.
exactly. Now, what type of advice would you give to some beginners, which this may or may not include me, that says, "Hey, I'm not really that artistic. I don't know if carving is it for me."
I do hear that a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, "Oh, you know, draw stick figures."
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, it certainly helps. Okay, because when you're talking about, let's say you're carving something very three-dimensional, I do a lot of drawing on the wood itself. All right, so being
Okay.
able to do that and being able to visualize that in itself is helpful. But there is also so much out there. Like if you're doing period furniture reproductions,
Mhm.
there's a lot out there that are just simply already available. The designs are available, and I don't think you need to get too worried about that. There's also Google Images.
Right. Yes.
I'm serious. Like if let's say I'm carving an oak leaf, like
Right.
what exactly does an oak leaf? How many people really truly know what an oak leaf looks like if you hadn't really studied it?
Not in
So
the detail to be able to carve it for sure.
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So Google Images is perfect for that. And then you can do something like Google Images drawing of, because what that does then is you get an outline of something and then obviously make it your own directly, but get an idea of what the shapes of those leaves are. And so I think sometimes we are kind of hard on ourselves with thinking that we should know everything about everything, or whether unless you've actually studied something, it's really is difficult. How do those veins actually move on the leaf? Well, I guess I'll have to look at that and study it, but automatically we don't. I mean, even I've learned this with carving faces. We look at faces all the time. We're looking at people's faces. We're looking at eyes. We're looking at mouth. But if you ever try carving something, you have preconceived ideas of it and you think, okay, this, lips are shaped like this, eyeball shaped like this. And, it's never, never close until you actually really, really start studying the actual shapes and details. And even though you think, no, I see this every single day, but it's not that easy.
Yes, yes, that makes perfect sense. Well, so how has teaching these courses and stuff through the years and, contributed to your own and refined your own carvings?
That's a good question. It's first of all, I love teaching. I love
Mhm.
teaching beginners
Mhm.
because I think I think I'm able to sort of step back to when I was really, really excited about, like, oh my goodness, I made my first leaf curl over. And I remember the excitement of that, saying, how did I do that? And so when I see that on students' faces of that joy of discovery, I think it just keeps me interested in it. And sometimes, you can get a little stagnant and a little, I don't know, cynical, I guess, of
Mhm.
things like, oh, I've been doing this for how many years.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just refreshing to be with new people in a new environment and just see the excitement and what they can achieve. So yeah, it just reminds me, I guess, of how it was when I started. And so after 30 some years, I can still get excited for them.
Well, what keeps you excited about carving?
Oh,
Is it these
challenges.
challenges? Yeah,
Yes.
these 3
Yes.
and 4-inch deep relief carvings
Uh,
and stuff. Yeah.
yep. Challenges. And yeah, the teaching other people too, and yeah, seeing that excitement. But I think, yeah, if I ever get to the point where I feel like I know it all, you know how that
Yeah.
goes. Time to put the chisel down and never pick it up again. And after working in anything for 30 years, you
Mm.
sort of get, no, well, I know where I'm going with that one, and I know and uh, every once in a while, you just have to push yourself past that point of say, you know what, I need to experience something new
Mhm.
and exciting and something that I never thought I could do. And you need to push yourself to do it. And it's been a really, really exciting process. And after this fireplace mantle, I'm not sure where it's going to go from there, but bigger
Yeah.
and better, I guess. Keep
Now
pushing.
now let me ask you this. So what does your fireplace mantle look like?
It's very mild. Yeah, there's very few things. Well, this was back in Charleston. Actually, one of my lessons that's actually on my school, there's an sort of a, I don't even remember what it's called. It's an urn with the little leaves coming down.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
a Grecian urn.
Grecian, yeah.
Anyway, that's actually the center of the mantle, and I put little rosettes there. So it's actually quite mild.
Okay.
But yeah, they always say, you never actually have any of your own carvings, but I
No
do have
shoes for the
something.
shoemaker.
That's right. Well, cool. Well, so before we let you go, so what else do you do besides wood carving? What are some of your other interests outside of that?
Not much, actually. It's funny because somebody asked me that a while ago, and there's like, "Well, what do you do for fun?" I'm like, "I
Oh,
carve." So, and I actually felt kind of bad. I'm like, "I should have something. I should have a better
mhm.
answer than that." So I'm like panicking. I'm like, "I should find something. Should I find something else?" Well, right now I have 3 grandchildren: a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a newborn.
Wow,
And
that'll keep you busy.
yeah, and they live 2 houses away from us. So
Okay.
uh,
Right.
that is exciting, and I've
That-
actually had the 5-year-old in my workshop. Haven't put a carving chisel in his hand yet, but teaching him how to use little saws, and we made a birdhouse
Yep.
last year. So,
Nice.
um,
Yeah. Well, you
so
got to
that is
keep.
fun.
First, he has to learn how to sweep up the shavings.
Oh yeah,
Then,
oh he loves doing that. Then throwing him around again, yeah. And so I guess you can say, well, I like gardening, but I'm not very good at it, just because I don't take time to do it.
well, you live on the lake. Do y'all do any fishing, boating, that kind of thing?
We just enjoy the lake, really. Haven't really gotten
Okay.
into that much just because, well, we've been, like I said, for the last year, 2 years, we've been moving, and that is really intense. When you've been living in one place for 25 years, you pick up lots of stuff.
That's
And
right.
so, and I've also been moving shop. So it's been kind of a busy time
Yep.
that way. And any spare time that I have, I'm in the workshop.
Yeah. Well, um, one more question before we let you go is you mentioned something about there not being that many carvers here in I assume in the U.S. What is the landscape as far as like in Europe and stuff like that, as far as wood carvers?
You know, there are more
Hmm.
because there are more schools. There's some German schools. There's the English school at City and Guilds. And there's probably actually more work over there just because
Hmm.
there's probably a lot more restoration work in like the
Right.
cathedrals and that type of thing. But yeah, there's definitely more of a chance to find it there. But in the States, I can probably, that I know of, I can probably less than one hand of people who are full time wood carvers.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I want to say
Wow.
3 or 4 people who are full-time wood carvers. Now, there's a lot of people who are furniture makers who also carve, and they're
Right.
excellent at both, but to actually focus on carving. It's not an easy business. You have to be very flexible because when you don't say no to anything that comes through the door.
Right.
And
Right.
you got the internet thing, you got the school thing, you got the teaching, you got the commissions, and you pretty much do what needs to be done to keep to keep the business flowing.
Sure. Well,
And,
cool.
and is it the time too? I mean, no one's ordering the new Resolute desk, around these around in the last couple hundred years. So
Hmm.
it's just I'm like your mantelpiece has got to be like you were probably really well maybe begrudgingly happy when you took the job because it's going to be a long period of time making it, but that has to be. I mean, just kind of scarcer than it has in the past.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, even so when you think about in Europe, the cathedrals,
Hmm.
you don't
Yeah.
Mhm.
see that. You don't see that type of thing at all.
Did you
You just
Yeah.
actually to
see.
that when the what was the church in Paris? Why can't I think of the name?
Um,
Yeah, when Notre Dame. Did you hear about any carving opportunities from that? Because they had to remake a bunch of it, right?
No, I did not hear anything. I was waiting for that phone call,
Yeah.
but
Phenomenal.
Like, honey,
Yeah.
we're moving again.
yeah. Yeah, but I'm sure, and there's a lot of English carvers still working, and probably a lot of in France also. But no, they're definitely more for restoration work. I don't know if
Mhm.
there's so much for new work
Yeah.
because honestly, right now you get 3D printing, uh,
Hmm.
which is a huge thing.
And 3D
3D
carving
Yeah.
printing.
too. Like you can
Oh yeah,
CNC carve these things. I mean, not to the degree that you're carving this deep
But
Yeah.
it's
engraved
getting
thing.
impressive.
Yeah,
I mean,
very.
really, what can be done?
Yeah. Well, it's also got to be the cost because, like you said, even back
Yeah.
in the day, these were mainly done in cathedrals, castles, stuff like that.
Yes.
So, you had to have the wealth to have these carvings, and that's probably true today. Is
Mhm.
having these type of carvings is kind of an expression of your wealth. When
Yeah.
people
I
come
mean,
to
that's
visit you,
Yeah.
they see this massive carved mantle.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's reasons why those
Yeah.
mantles of yore, are
Yeah.
found in restoration shops now, where
Yeah.
they are when things happen, people recognize the work that went into them and they save them for use in the future. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
it's an ongoing process, but you're doing yeoman's work on keeping it going for sure.
Well, and the thing is too, you really do have to be flexible with things. There was a job in Charleston where it was a 36 ionic capitals
Mm.
for an outside and all these columns for this beautiful
Mhm.
home. There was no way I was going to carve them all in wood. So what I did was I carved one in
Mhm.
wood, and I made a rubber mold of it, and everything else was resin,
Mm.
durable resin. And I made those then as external or exterior pieces. It's not something I really like. I mean, I like the original carving of it,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
whole thing about making resin castings is just makes me go, "Eh."
Yeah.
But as I said, you have to be flexible if you want to stay in the work environment that you're in. Sometimes you have to
Yeah.
Yeah.
go a
Oh, you
direction.
know what? They would
Yeah.
have done that 200 years ago if they had it.
I'm sure they would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, they wanted it in 6 months?
Yeah,
There was
not a
no way I was gonna be
chance.
carving
Yeah.
36 massive
Exactly.
capitals in 6
Wow.
months.
Yeah. Either that or every class you have. Hey, we're not doing that anymore. We're doing
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
Yep. Who wants to be an apprentice?
yeah. A string of capital carvings. Let's go.
Yeah, and get 50 cents an hour.
Exactly. Well, if you would like to take a course from Mary, where can folks find you on the interwebs?
My website, marymaycarving.com, and that is the membership site, online site, and also it shows my in-person schedule for the new school and other places that I'm also teaching this next year is on my calendar.
Okay, wonderful. And with that, we'll move on to our fortnightly beer choices. So I will start us off. I am having
Not the house beer.
pause for dramatic effect as I do this. It's a cross, and I'm not pronouncing that right, but it's a Czech beer. It's from here. It's from Galveston Bay Brewing, and this is the first time I've had something from them. And it's just a nice, Pilsner. Not bad. And looks like that. And what is interesting is it has this label on it. And when I picked these up at the store, they're in the refrigerated section. I grabbed them. I go, well, these aren't cold yet. They must have just put them in there. And I came home, put them in the refrigerator, and several hours later, I went back to try one out, and I picked up the can, and I'm like, wait, this isn't cold yet. But yes, it is cold. It's just this label. I'm not saying it's insulated label, but it's an insulated label.
Interesting.
That is nice.
That's very
nice touch.
interesting, actually. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like the label part, it's like cool, but it's like, hey, this was just put in the fridge like an hour ago or something. But the metal parts are freezing cold. So it's like,
Huh.
Interesting.
They do that down in Texas. So that's weird.
I guess it's the first time I've come across that. Now, there may be a lot of breweries that are doing labels like that now, but it's the first one I've come across. So
Yeah, can't say I have.
anyway. So Jeff, what about yourself?
I'm drinking some of the Pure Life purified water.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going down
Good
easy.
Yep.
That's a good vintage.
Don't drink too many; it'll bite you in the morning,
Yeah.
or actually in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
the
that's
middle
a
of-
night the
Right.
problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all of that age. Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yes. So Brian, what about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm drinking a new one for me. It's called Tangy. It's from Treehouse Brewing. If you haven't figured it out, I got a big sample pack sent to me. It's an American IPA. It's very good. A little bit of citrus hint to it. I'd recommend it. It'd be a good summer beer.
Nice.
Yeah. Sean, how about you?
So I saved this one for a couple weeks, but it's apropos because, as I previously mentioned, everything melted today. This is a Ohio brewery, Masthead, and they call this one Ice Melter. It's an IPA with grapefruit and habanero peppers, which makes you drink it slowly. You can't help it.
It's spicy.
Yeah, it's got
It's like-
habanero in it, man.
Yeah.
There's a back of the tongue heat.
I've had one of those before, and I went, yes, that was an interesting experience.
Yes.
I'm not going to repeat
Yes.
Like
I mean,
bloody,
this is
like Bloody Mary spicy, kind of.
yeah.
kind of. It lays on your tongue, and if you drink it too fast, it
Mhm.
layers on your tongue. In my estimation, I don't mind heat. I'm not a big habanero fan, as far
Yeah.
as that level of heat, and so it's definitely in there. As I'm talking, I can feel it on my tongue. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's a local. I don't know how far outside Ohio they go, but they have a great variety. This is just one that kind of popped up in the winter time and nice to have. Warms your gullet a little bit. Mary, how about you? What are you sipping on tonight?
Coffee.
A mug of coffee. I love. You know what? Okay,
My Kansas City Woodworkers Guild cup. There you go.
fantastic.
Nice.
I can't tell you how many times I've had people look at me when I'm making another cup of coffee at 2, 3, maybe 4 o'clock in the evening in my office. And they're like, "You okay doing that?" Yes, I will. I promise you, I will go to bed on time. Like, this is not a problem.
I could drink at 8 o'clock at night. It wouldn't bother me.
Yes. Okay. So we're
Yeah.
all of the same. Some of us are the same milk. That's fantastic.
So Mary, what's your method of coffee creation?
Actually, I've been starting to experiment with this mushroom coffee.
Yeah.
My
yeah.
wife drinks that.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure yet.
Is your
I don't know what
brain
what it-
more fueled? That's the whole power of the mushrooms, right? It's supposed to fuel the
Supposedly,
brain.
it's supposed to help you sleep
What-
better. It's supposed to, I thought that was interesting. You
Yeah,
drink
take coffee
mushroom
to sleep
coffee in
better.
the evening, right? I don't know.
Yep.
We'll see.
Yeah. My wife started ordering that a few months ago. So
We have
Yeah,
some.
anyway,
Yeah.
she's still ordering it. So I guess she likes it. So anyway.
She must.
I've got some interesting things that they say about it, and I don't know. I'm willing to try it for a little
Yeah.
while.
I'm one of those people. Mushroom guy. No, I'm not going to try it.
It's
But
powdered
anyway, I guess-
mushroom. It doesn't taste like a shiitake. I mean, it's going to be fine.
Tastes a little muddy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it looked like
earth
when she
tones.
made it. I
Dirt-
did take a
dirt-
look at it
Dirt
and
mixed in with your
smelled
coffee.
it and went, nah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, with that, let's move on to feedback. So who do we have this week?
All right, we actually have a review here from the Apple Podcast Player. It's a 5-star review from a Lotechi Mo, if we pronounced that correct. He or she says, "Great guests and info. I do what I can to listen to every episode. It's rare for me to miss listening, and I like the idea of interviewing different woodworkers. Just solid info and good folks." That is awesome.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, but if you would like to leave us some additional feedback, you can do so just like Lotechi did on your Apple or your podcast player of choice, as well as leaving comments on our MWA podcast Instagram. That will work as well. And we appreciate all your comments and criticisms.
And that just about wraps it up for this show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show on the podcatcher of your choice. Just search for the Modern Woodworkers Association. And while you're there, please leave us a review. You can follow us on Instagram at MWA_podcast. And if you'd like to support the podcast, go over to patreon.com/MWA podcast. But the best thing you can do is tell a friend. Word of mouth goes a long way in sharing our discussion.